Hey gang, it's John. Thanks for listening to another episode of Deep Dive, and this time we are bringing back Yes keyboardist and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Tony Kaye. Tony is here to talk about their 1987 album, Big Generator. I think everybody knows 90125 comes out in the early 80s, and it's a surprise hit. And so they've got to get the band back together for a follow-up, even though there is so much dysfunction in there. I just finished reading Trevor Horn's book, which is great, by the way. Trevor produces the first album, 90125. He doesn't talk about Big Generator in the book, but he does talk about kind of the drama within the band and his strained relationship with Tony Kaye. Tony's a little more gentlemanly about discussing it in here, but it exists. So anyway, there's a lot of turmoil involved in the creation of this album, but it eventually gets done, and it includes hits like Rhythm of Love, Love Will Find a Way. I love this album a lot. I hope you do too. I will say real quick that I had to record this one on my phone, and so the sound quality isn't quite as good, but it's good enough. You'll enjoy it. All right? Enjoy.
Thanks for being willing to do this with me, Tony. So you're cool with doing kind of a deep dive of Big Generator?
Well, if I could remember anything. How long ago was that?
Well, according to my research, you started 85 is when you guys started rehearsals for Big Generator.
somewhere around then. I know it took a long time.
Yeah. So before we get into it, first and foremost, I wanted to say we're coming up on a year since your End of the Innocence album dropped, and I'm curious what has the response been to End of Innocence over this time?
Well, fortunately, it's been really nice response. You know, people have definitely seen it for what it is, and of course, I wasn't trying to, do anything particularly progressive or anything like Yes, or it was done on such a long period of time from the day after it happened that there was a lot of developments along the way. You know, a lot of it was actually done in the first year or two.
Really?
And done in peculiar ways. You know, recorded at peculiar places on cassette players and all kinds of weirdness. You know, so it was not like, normal going into a studio and recording for a few weeks or a couple of months or whatever. And it was just it's a little cliche, but it was kind of a labor of love, really. And I didn't have a record company, and it was only just by chance, really, that I did the 50th anniversary with Yes, and kind of met up with their management and all the rest of it, and they persuaded me actually to finish it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
good.
It was a gradual thing, but I was happy with it.
Good.
It's very, very different, and about a very serious topic, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. Do you get to perform it ever, or does it just live out there on the streaming services and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I will never perform it. I wouldn't know how to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot. I mean, a lot of it is orchestral. You know, a lot of it was built up on my keyboards. Using, on an orchestral basis. So, doing it live. A couple of people have suggested that it would be great if it was actually transcribed for orchestra and performed as an orchestra. So, who knows?
Okay.
Maybe in the future.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it makes sense for, you could, on anniversaries of the event or whatever, you get to perform your whole magnum opus, and it's gorgeous. It should be performed that way,
Yes, if it was going to be performed, I think that would be the way to do it. You know,
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah.
People have said, you should play the whole thing with at the Royal Albert Hall with the London Philharmonic, and but unless someone comes along with that plan.
That might not be so easy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. I loved it, and I was really happy we got to talk about it last year, and it's coming up on its anniversary, or it just had its anniversary, so I wondered how things have been going with it. Now, Big Generator. This is, in doing the research to talk to you, I'm realizing this is, so here's what I have a theory about you, about Yes in the 80s. I feel like 90125 is your divorce baby. You know how couples sometimes are on the cusp of divorce and they think, maybe if we have one more kid, it'll spice up our marriage and it'll bring us closer together. And so 90125 is that divorce baby. And it turns out you do. You love your kid, and it kind of helps for a little while. And so you think, well, we're a bigger family now, so let's buy a bigger house. And that's what Big Generator is a divorced house. But all along, none of these things, as nice as they are fixing the core issues in the marriage. Does that sound about right?
That's a good way of putting it, actually. A good way to describe exactly what went on. Well, 90125 was a surprise.
Yeah.
No one expected, what happened there, and it was just, it was never going to be Yes. The band was going to be completely different with Trevor, and it was 9 months of rehearsing something that became, something that no one expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And follow that.
Right.
You really couldn't do it, especially in the the genre of Yes history and Yes music. It was so 90125 was so different musically. It took on a life of its own, and because of circumstances of being in England, Trevor Horn and everything that was happening in Psalm Studios at that time, Grace Jones and
Frankie Goes to Hollywood, ABC.
Frankie and ABC. It was just it was a thing that really no one expected and no one really understood. I mean, we were just kind of dumbfounded, really. Yeah, they put us on the road, and it was a great show. It was a number one. We got a different audience, a younger audience, a more mixed audience, and it was like, follow that. Yeah. And of course, we couldn't follow.
I don't know. I mean, it's not up to par quite, but there are times when I enjoy listening to the Big Generator album as much or more than 90125. It's a mood, but I don't know. I don't see the album as the step backwards that a lot of people do. One thing I am curious about, I'm curious about a lot, but when I had Gary Langan on here a couple of years ago, I believe it was Gary. I've had so many people that have worked with Trevor. In fact, I just talked to Trevor a couple of weeks ago, and you came up, of course. If I remember right, it was Gary who told me that people rarely work with Trevor Horn twice. They do it once, and it's successful, but it's so much work and so much drama that they almost never do it twice. And I wonder if that is because he was attached at first, and then he couldn't do it anymore. Do you find that to be true with working with Trevor? It's just too much to do more than once?
Well, it's no secret that that Trevor and I Trevor Horn, that is, didn't get on.
Yeah.
And so it was a very difficult situation for me. I enjoyed it a lot because of the people there, and people like Gary, and of course I was working quite a lot with Mutt Langer at that time doing Pyromania. And it was an enjoyable period, but a very sort of dark, strange period with Trevor Horn, because he just didn't respect anything that I did, and of course, it was a weird time for keyboards at that time. I mean, to get to Psalm and be confronted with this keyboard, this synclavier thing that really couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It cost $2 million and made cow mooing sounds and various sort of sampling things which really worked on Oh Never Lonely Heart, because sampling really hadn't been done then. But it was a weird time as a kid. I'm primarily a Hammond B3 player, and the sort of concept and the musicality of what we were trying to do was a little different to that, and it was very hard to know what to do. And, you have to sort of consider that Trevor was sort of king of the Psalm studio situation, using keyboards with bands like ABC, who had no, preconceptions about Hammonds and piano.
Right.
Frankie goes, I mean, it was for a keyboard player, it was kind of odd. And also, he had some kind of success with Radio Killed the
Video Killed the
Radio style, and was working with Jeff, who was very up in the sort of new keyboard technique too. Yeah, Trevor looked at me as kind of an old, what is he doing with a B3?
Yeah.
So it was a little strange recording the album.
It feels like to me, when I read into this, that there are numerous camps and you have to sort of show your loyalty to one. It sounds like there's a Trevor Rabin camp, maybe a John Anderson camp, and maybe a Chris Squire camp. And each one has different ideas of what the next Yes album should sound like. And trying to satiate each person while also moving things along and getting everyone else involved is just too big of a job for Horn to take on, and he just decided, kind of, screw this. I'm not getting along with everybody anyway. Let Trevor Rabin figure this out. Is that sort of right?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. But at the same time, we were all really of one mind right at the beginning. Not to forget that we actually rehearsed the thing for 9 or 10 months. I mean, it was pretty much set in stone. Apart from the recording of it, we kind of rehearsed it as a band. So when it came to going into the studio, it became a very different, complicated thing with different camps. And of course, Chris was very much in favor of Trevor Horn.
Okay.
Trevor Rabin is a genius and can do, anything that Trevor Horn tried to do in his sleep. So there was a lot of complexities going down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like and if this is too pointed a question, you can tell me and we'll cut it out. Is John just a difficult person to work with sometimes, depending on the situation? Because it seems like he's sort of at the crux of these breakaway yes things. You're either with John or you're without John, and people seem to lose patience or something.
Yes, and that, having worked with John a long time after that, there's a lot. There's a lot to that. He's definitely not the easiest person, and does have a very, 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 very much his own way of doing everything, and wants his own way, and every, not the easiest thing in the world. But of course, at the same time too, John, I mean, I wasn't even there. I had left the band. I threw my hands up in the air and just left London. But he wasn't there for the entire recording of the album. He flew in from Paris and just happened to come to the studio, and of course, Atlantic had it probably in their brains that I guess reunion would obviously be financially the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. But he came in and really liked the songs and whatever, and just kind of recorded what was there. It was done. The album was recorded.
And you're talking about the Union album right now, right?
No, 9125.
Oh, Big Generator.
No, 9125.
Oh, really? Oh, yes, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah, John came in right at the end, to extend that thought that with the point that you were making was that, after touring and all the success of 9125 to get into Big Generator with him being there from the beginning all the time was a slightly daunting.
Yes, okay. That makes sense. I get it. Now, I'm curious, not that you do, but when you listen to the final album, do you hear more Trevor Rabin or more Trevor Horn? Who do you think, whose hand has the sound more, heavily there in the finished product?
Of 9125?
No, a Big Generator.
Oh, Big Generator. Oh, Big Generator was Trevor's baby.
Trevor Rabin, because it started out with Horn and then he left, and so I didn't know how much of the finished product is Horn produced or Rabin produced. Trevor
Horn had hardly anything to do with Big Generator. He didn't know what was going on. Yeah, it was Rabin's baby, and I was there after rehearsals in Los Angeles when everyone kind of dispersed and went to different countries or whatever. I lived close to Trevor Rabin, and so we were together the whole time. And for the first time, Digital Performer was there, and he installed it in his studio, and Big Generator was actually finished.
Got it. Okay. I was now when you think about Trevor Rabin, who I agree, I think is also kind of a genius too. There might be it reminds me of Michael McDonald coming into the Doobie Brothers. Here's a new guy who wasn't intended to take over the band, but his new ideas were so fresh and good that it just happened naturally, and that's good commercially, but is it good for the dynamic of the group? You know, does everyone want this new guy who's coming in to sort of take over? How do you feel about that? Are you comfortable with Raven basically becoming the creative force of Yes during these years, or is there some resentment?
Yeah, no, I think everyone was,
Okay.
you know, because he was obviously the dominant force in the songwriting. Although by Big Generator, you know, he came into the band, you know, before 90125,
right.
with songs that he'd already written, produced, and you know, a lot of that material was his.
Yeah.
And nobody else's. Big Generator was a slightly more sort of democratic thing. We sat in a room in the Hollywood Hills and you know, played with drum machines and musical ideas and a lot of you know, Rhythm of Love and Shoot High and Low. He already had Love Will Find a Way. I'm Running. The Final Eyes were collaborations between the people that were there, and John was kind of there, but he was in and out.
Okay.
Chris was there all the time, but Chris, being Chris, was really not there all the time.
When I was reading up on this, I read that this was a big drug time for everybody. I don't know if everybody means mostly Chris or if it's everybody's kind of indulging in this during this period.
Yeah, there was a certain amount of shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
Not everyone, of course.
Right.
In fact, you know, there was really very, very little from you know, from the rest of the band. But you know, Chris was kind of a party guy.
Okay. I didn't realize that. That's good to know. And marriages are breaking up, and these older, you know, proggy British rock guys are suddenly in LA with #1 songs, and you know, all the indulgences that brings with it. I'm guessing this is a pretty heady time for everybody to kind of, let's enjoy this. We didn't know this kind of success before.
Well, yeah, there was a certain amount of that. Certainly, after quite a few years of success from, you know, 82 to 85, and then we sort of realized that we had to, you know, do another album. And you know, the record company too probably wanted a follow-up to 90125. Same vein, and there was a little bit of you know, disparity in the band in that they'd gone through the 70s with, you know, very progressive so-called yes music, you know,
right?
And the 80s was sort of far from that, and it was successful, but we lost a lot of the original fans, and you know, people like John. I think mostly John really would have liked to have taken it back to the 70s, and in fact, I mean, he went on after that to ABWH.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Anderson, Rupert Wakeman, and how that album is more in keeping with the traditional yes that people think about, and
right,
you know,
yeah,
spiritualism and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
So the you know, the pop aspect of what we were expected to follow up with was, you know, a little difficult. You know, it's kind of, you kind of go along with what you're producing and what you're writing. You know, when you're rehearsing songs like Love Will Find a Way and Rhythm of Love, it sort of takes it to another, it's not close to the edge.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, there was a disparity of thought in what we were trying to do then. Yeah. I don't think anyone really knew, except, everyone was happy that Trevor seemed to know, what he wanted to do. So.
Right. Who's Paul de Villiers or whatever? His name is on there too, but I don't have any real history of who he is.
Paul was a friend of Trevor's.
Okay.
And he had just slightly previously had a hit with a band called Mr. Mister.
Sure. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, great album and everything. And we'd gone through, we started the album off in a castle in Italy, which was
Boy, yeah, I read somewhere it was for tax purposes. But, every British classic rock band has done something similar to that. The Stones, Zeppelin, all of them do these things.
Yeah, sure. Except the facilities there were not exactly, Rolling Stone quality. It was very odd. Living quarters, should we say? Tiny little rooms, and of course, the band said, "Well, we're not putting up with this." And my point was, the alternative is to spend an awful lot of money because you've got to rent houses and cars at that point.
Yeah. True.
And apart from anything else, you're kind of not together. Cut a long story short, it was me ended up with Trevor Horn and myself in two little rooms in the castle.
Ooh. And you two aren't getting along anyway. Maybe this is why. You two can't get away from each other.
Well, it was a slightly different situation in that I had quite a much bigger hand in writing of the songs.
Yeah, true.
And being, sort of instrumental in actual, the actual album. So yeah, it was not like he could get rid of me that easy at that point. But it was certainly uncomfortable. But I was kind of stamping my feet and trying to make a point about how much it was costing, And of course it was a ridiculously expensive album. And everyone did get big houses in the vicinity and went exactly the way that I knew that it would.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. All right. Well, the album came out finally on September 21st, 1987. It reached number 15 on the Billboard charts in America. It eventually went platinum. I did also read maybe double platinum. That might have been Raven just kind of embellishing the numbers a little bit, but it went at least platinum. And I remember seeing Chris and John on MTV guest VJ shows and stuff like that. I remember the videos. We'll kick it off with Rhythm of Love. That was the only two singles from this, and I've got some questions about that. Rhythm of Love is the second single. It hits number 40 on the Billboard charts, barely, hitting the top 40. When Rabin talks about this song, he says it's pretty much just sex. I just thought it would be funny to tease the listeners with a sex song, and this is it. But of course, no one does a sex song quite like Yes. So you have a co-write on this song. What do you remember about this song? And what one thing I want to know when we talk about these, Tony, is what parts of these songs do you personally feel some ownership of? Like, I did this part. I remember recording this line or this sound or whatever. That was my contribution. If you don't mind, I'm curious what those are.
Well, it depends on the song, and it starts with somebody. Usually, it starts with somebody, some idea. Rhythm of Love was me starting with the riff and a drum machine, and just sitting there late at night and doing the horn thing. It was sort of like a Stax old time, R&B thing. And of course, rhythmically, it was pretty much that too, and it went on from there. Everyone, of course, had a hand in everything, in every song, and some people started. I mean, Shoot High and Low was Alan and I sitting at a drum machine at a piano, and messing around with the three chords, and he came up with that rhythm that is all the way Shoot High and Low. Big Generator was very much Trevor.
Okay. One thing I was curious about, there's beautiful backing vocals on a lot of these, especially Rhythm of Love, very Beach Boys inspired. Are you involved in that at all? Because
no.
Rabin and John and Chris's voices sound so beautiful together. But I wondered if that was everybody, or is it just the three of them usually?
Yeah, it was just the three of them, and usually inspired. Trevor was so good at and was a really good singer in his own right, and he was so good at putting that stuff together and recording it, and multi-tracking it, sort of Beach Boys. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it was Trevor. Obviously, Holy Lamb was particularly someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that was a good one. Now, track 2, Big Generator. One thing that always strikes me about this song is that it starts out with kind of the similar vocal studio trickery that Leave It had on 90125.
Such a strange preoccupation, such a strange peculiar breed. How it's shining in its armor, made of gold and made of steel. It can strike a chord inside you, like a generation's need. Speaking happy words of promise.
And whenever I talk to you or Gary Langan or anyone else who worked on that song, they are always like, "Oh my gosh, that was so much work putting that thing together." And the video too. Well, no, the video, you guys are just standing around. Never mind. That's the like production value. But with that being such a headache when you did Leave It the first time, is this kind of a new trick that everyone's like, "Ooh, that was kind of fun though. Let's do it again and put it at the beginning of Big Generator"?
Yeah, I think I think it was something that particularly Trevor wanted to do vocally.
Okay.
It just like Leave It, became a sort of an a cappella, big vocal thing. Yeah, Big Generator, which I think is actually probably my favorite track on the album.
Really? Ooh, I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, I really, I haven't listened to it in a long time.
Uh-huh.
But generally, I think the whole album is a little underestimated.
I agree.
I think it's a much better album, than the reviews indicated.
I agree.
I think that just generally, and this is my opinion about the whole album, and Trevor probably wouldn't agree with it, but I love the early mixes. I think they got into the weeds a bit to make it slicker and sound better and everything. But actually, the more raw mixes that were done in Los Angeles with the Villiers were, to me anyway, more exciting. They were more raw. Yeah.
I feel like Big Generator would have made sense as a potential third or fourth single. Like I said earlier, there were only the two, Rhythm of Love and Love Will Find a Way. I think Big Generator and Almost Like Love both make sense as a third single. I'm curious, why stop at two? The album was doing good enough. Did they just feel like there wasn't enough interest? Or was the band burnt out?
Yeah, I think so. At that point, I think people, including the record company, thought, this is not going to be the hit that we wanted, and I think it was sort of abandoned at that point.
Oh, that's too bad.
The wrong singles, in my opinion. But,
okay. So do you feel like Big Generator should have been one of the singles or a first single or something?
I think it should be in the first single, yeah.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered that.
There was a couple of good. Shoot High and Low was very, sort of Floydy in a way, kind of moody. Yeah. And I thought I'm Running was a really cool track too.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Don't go the single route. Was sort of my opinion on it.
Interesting. Okay.
Obviously, Love Will Find a Way. It's a pop single.
Yeah, it is.
I think we should have avoided that.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. A couple more thoughts on Big Generator. Number one, was it always intended as the name of the album? And apparently, I've never seen the 90125 movie, but apparently that's a line by an actor in the movie. And that's where this term came from.
Yes, it's one of the video clips that sort of surround the live 912 Live. Well, very well worth watching, by the way. It's
I've listened to the soundtrack album, but I've never seen the actual video.
Yeah. All the video stuff and the effects and everything were it sort of takes on a
cool
whole and was sort of the technology was old now, but at the time with the split screens and it was very.
I remember seeing clips of it, but I've never watched it in full. That's great. Why was it always intended to be both the name of a song and the album, or was the name of the album decided later, or what?
It was decided later. It was just a song that came from a narrative on the live.
Okay.
thing.
Another thing I read is that Alan White, when here on this song specifically, wanted more yes stamps, quote unquote. And I'm guessing that means he just wanted more of a yes imprint. We're not enough, too much AOR pop rock is happening. We need to sound like us. Let's put some of our stamps on this song. Do you remember that?
On Big Generator?
Yeah, on Big Generator, the song.
No, I have no memory of that, and yeah, I don't remember Alan pointing that out. No.
Okay, well, that's what I read on somewhere. So
yeah, you got it.
Sometimes wrong. And, okay, so track 3 is Shoot High Aim Low, and from what it sounds like to me, that seems to be the band's favorite track. I believe you've said that before. I think Raven said that before. This seems to be the one that satisfies the most people.
We hit the blue fields. In the blue sedan, we didn't get much further. Just as the sun was rising in the mist, we were all alone, we didn't need much more. So fast this expedition, so fast this heavy load, with a touch of luck and a sense of need. Seeing the guns and the faces, we looked around the open shore. We didn't know something. Shoot high, break low. Aim high, shoot low. Break high, let go. Shoot high, aim low.
Yeah, I think so. For me, live, it was the more interesting track. It was it's kind of a groove track. It's kind of moody, but has great dynamics in it too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course live it was just the band used to take off. It was a very dynamic track.
I could see that. There's and a lot of these songs are excellent guitar solos. Are those always Raven? Because like this one has this really incredible, almost flamenco Spanish guitar solo in it. Is that him every time?
Oh yeah.
He's incredible.
Yeah, no, I know that the bit you're talking about. Yeah. He's just an amazing guitar player.
He is. I wonder too if him being South African, is he bringing with him just this more exotic view or take on making music than anyone else in the band would have had? Do they have anything to do with each other? I don't know.
Well, I mean, all I can deduce from it really is that he plays piano, he plays drums, he plays bass, he plays guitar, really, really well.
Yeah. Okay.
All of them. Just an amazingly talented guy.
Yeah.
And should have always really been writing for film, which obviously he did.
Yeah.
And it was a progression for him, and he did get a break in his first movie score at the beginning, but I think that there's a lot of music in all of the albums. in Talk,
Talk's good too.
In the Union album, that indicated what he was going to do.
Yeah, I could see that.
Super talented guy, and it was really a vehicle for him.
Yeah,
maybe not entirely accomplished, but it was a good vehicle.
Yeah, it was. It was. Okay, Almost Like Love. Now, I love this song.
Who was it organized the right to follow my leader? See me look and stand around waiting for a sign from God. Speaking for myself, the Christian need, the Muslim need, the Buddhist need to testify the need for brotherly love. I know there's so many hundred things to talk about, making us laugh just like a Shakespeare revolution. Please organize our spiritual evolution so that you feel it and we'll feel it, appreciate it's almost like love. It's almost like love. It's almost like love. It's almost like love. Say no sinner makes no difference in who you believe, in a world of superstition, cult and total nuclear greed. Pioneers of the 21st century.
When I was a kid, this was my favorite song on this album. And I still will play it for people sometimes, and they won't know that it's Yes. They'll come in thinking they know what Yes is about, and you play this song, which sounds like a straight-up pop rock hit single on the radio with these horns and this riff, and they're shocked to hear that that's who it is. But if I remember right, when we talked about this a year ago, you're not crazy about this song. Raven's not crazy about this song. He doesn't think it should have even been on the album. Why is it on the album if no one really bought into it?
I don't know. I agree with Trevor on this one, and it's never and through the years, not being in the band, and I've gone to see the band even fairly recently. They still do the song.
They do? They do this one?
Yeah.
That shocks. I've never seen Yes live ever, and I saw Anderson, Wakeman, and Rabin, or whatever that thing was, few years ago, and that was great. Of course, they didn't play this. I wish they had. I had no idea this one gets trotted out. I just assumed this is the one that no one ever touched again.
Yeah, I mean, even Steve actually plays Almost Like Love. What we were talking about before, Rhythm of Love, because of the love thing, I got a little confused. Almost Like Love is the song that I started late at night with the drum machine and the sort of the stacked rhythm horn section, and I never liked it, even though I was sort of inspirational to it, and I could never understand why the band wanted to carry on with it.
Oh, I love it. Someone I was reading compared it to Sue Studio as being a reason why they didn't like it, and I thought, well, I love Sue Studio too. I know I'm not supposed to, but I do love that song, and they're kind of right. So the introduction of horns is kind of a new thing, and there's some horn sections in this album. Who thought of the horns, and did anyone have a problem with that?
Well, I mean, I had written the horn section to Almost Like Love. And,
you did?
Yeah, and that was the first thing that sort of inspired the song.
Okay.
Trevor took it and made it and wrote a song about it. But yeah, and that the rhythm section and that sort of R&B thing that I was particularly fond of. And of course, the same with Genesis and Studio. Very, very similar in concept, really.
Yeah. I just think it showcases everyone. The guitar riff is huge and heavy. Your Hammond organ sounds fantastic, assuming that's what this is. Alan's drums are huge. John almost raps in the vocals. I just think, I love this tune. And this, too, I think would have sounded great on the radio, but no one wanted to put that out, it sounds like.
I think that my problem with it was the chorus was cheesy.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And
I could see that.
If it had been a little hipper than what it turned out to be, I would have been a little more fine. Why they still play it, I have no idea.
Can you tell, Tony, that I came of age loving Yes during this chapter of your career and not the previous chapter? Because if I had, I'm sure I would feel similarly. But because this is what introduced Yes to my world, and I fell so deeply in love with it, these songs mean so much to me, more than Topographic Oceans or whatever, which is good too. But I just love this 80s period so much.
Yeah, the 80s era.
That's it. And I like Talk and Union too, not as much as these two, but you guys just were on fire around this time. Okay, we're turning it over. We're on side 2 now. Love Will Find a Way. It was the first single. It reached number 30. I feel like this song over the years, I hear this song come up more often as time goes on. This feels like the song that was great at the time, sort of forgotten about, and is now getting sort of poking out more often than it used to, at least with my friends and on people I know who have podcasts and music lovers and stuff like that. This song is sort of having almost a second life. Do you notice that or feel that at all?
I don't hear that, but Love Will Find a Way is all Trevor.
Yeah.
And it was his thing. The one thing I really like about Love Will Find a Way is the video.
Yeah.
Made.
Great.
in the with the airplane and around the campfire, and a very cool video.
Yeah, I love that. Now, he apparently initially intended to give this song to Stevie Nicks, right? And it didn't end up happening. That's what I read.
I did hear that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because Stevie was at the house quite a lot.
Really? Why? Was she dating somebody? No, just
okay.
She dates everybody. People. I just assumed she was hooking up with someone in Yes for a little while there.
There were late night parties at the Hollywood house where Stevie and Sly used to hang out.
Did you say Stevie and Sly? Like Sly Stone? Sly Stone. I guess these are people who just go to wherever the best cocaine is. Sly Stone is hanging out at Yes parties?
I know.
I just read a book on Sly Stone. This is crazy.
It's hard to believe, right?
Wow. Oh, man.
Not
it
the
doesn't
kind
matter
of,
where the good coke is. Those guys are there.
Yeah, well, probably more that, yeah. No, not entirely a musical inspiration for either of them. Although we had toured simultaneously with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry to hear about Christine too. Not very sad. Okay. So yeah, we crossed paths quite a lot, and Stevie was always around. So.
Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind right now, Tony. This is so crazy. I'm just imagining Sly Stone partying at Chris Squire's house or something. It doesn't feel like it should go together, and yet it does.
It turned out to be Chris Squire's house, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
It was the rehearsal house, but, Trevor and I had houses in the Hollywood Hills close by. So very often we left at night time when the fun started.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I would love to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what I eat at Chez Nous means and why that was for tonality, or just what do they call it when Susudio was just a made up word that Phil put in there because he wanted to find a word eventually that sounded like that. Guide vocals, maybe that's what I'm thinking. That's what Chez Nous, eat at Chez Nous sounds like to me. Like we're going to find something that makes sense later, and then never did.
No, it was the name of a restaurant.
Yeah, but it's such an odd thing to put in this. I eat at why are you declaring that you eat at this restaurant?
Well, it had a double meaning. Alan's drummer, Alan White, drummer, roadie. His drum roadie his name was Nunu.
Oh,
Nu for short, and of course Nunu. Especially at that time when we were sort of ensconced at the house in the Hollywood Hills, kind of looked after us, got meals together. And it was the kitchen was generally known as Chez Nous.
Oh, okay.
So it does have a slightly double meaning. People and fans have always thought, it's kind of ridiculous. It doesn't mean anything, and what does it mean? But we the kitchen was Chez Nous. I mean,
Okay. All right. Now I know. I've always wondered. I love this song. It is a straightforward, more pop rock song that maybe other bands could have done, but I feel like Yes did it their way and made it really special. I love that boom after the away part when it kind of kicks back in. I love the real strings on the intro. Do you feel, I know this is all Raven, but you played on it, right? Do you remember recording any parts of it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We all recorded it. I think it was a song, actually. I really don't know the entire story, but I think it was a song that was maybe conceived with Roger Hodgson, who
really, of Supertramp.
Yeah, of Supertramp, who Trevor was hanging out with and friends with, and I think I sort of get the impression that it could have become more of a Supertramp song than actually a Yes song.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But I could be way off base with that. But it's certainly I mean, I know that they were hanging out together. Yeah. And, so I think you could have had that sort of.
Who knew? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, next up.
Who Chez Nous?
Yeah. Who Chez Nous? Okay. Next up is Finalize.
Hey.
I got to admit, this is probably the song on the album I forget is there. Not that I don't like it, but it's been preceded by a bunch of songs that really stick out to me more. And it's the song after it is arguably my favorite on the album, so I forget Finalize is even there sometimes. I guess Raven said that it sounded too much like Journey for him and didn't think it belonged on this album either, necessarily.
Yeah, I tend to agree with him there.
Okay.
I have no definite memories of actually recording Finalize. Although, you know, a lot of these, maybe all of these songs, except Holy Lamb and maybe Love Will Find a Way, were recorded at the castle in Kalamati. Kalamati?
Something like that. Yeah.
Karamati.
Okay.
Karamati. And I have definite memories of recording a lot of things there because we set up all in separate rooms, particularly because the drums were set up in the great room in the castle because of the acoustics, and so there was a lot of memories of certain things.
Yeah,
certain songs. Finalize being one of them.
Okay.
I like Finalize.
I do too.
I know what you're saying, but
right.
I think it has some really interesting musical things going
I do too.
on.
There's like and I don't know what it is. I'm not being a musician kind of sucks at times like this. It almost sounds like a pipe organ or a glockenspiel or something. There is some, I don't know even know how to describe.
I think it's a pipe organ.
Is it? Okay, yeah. There's a sound, and I'm assuming that's you playing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In all of these songs, the more you, at face value, it seems kind of like we were saying, almost like a pop rock album, really. But when you get underneath that first layer and see what else is going on, there's all these interesting sounds. There's
a lot of,
as Alan might have said, everywhere.
There's a lot of stuff going on. It is actually a lot more, because it's yes music. I mean, it's not close to the edge, but it's in a way possibly more complex in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, for the '80s, it certainly was.
As 9125. If you do a sort of deep dive into that, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, there is. Okay, I'm running. Depending on my mood, is my favorite song on the album. Sometimes it's Almost Like Love. Sometimes it's Love Will Find a Way. But I'm Running is up and up there.
Shouldn't be afraid. So you give me this big story. It wakes me every day. The challenge is to chase the sound just to break away. And I'm running. Yes, I'm running. A simple piece just can't be found. Waste another day.
I love that it changes from like 5 different styles of music, all of which work. There's some like reggae tones in there. There's some like, there's shoot high and low, kind of dark moodiness. There's a little bit of everything in there. And you have a co-write on this one too. What do you remember as being your contribution to I'm Running? Because there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, not a lot.
No, really?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, it's one song that I remember being a Castle song just because of I don't know, the mood of and yeah, I mean, it is definitely a moody song.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could add more to
That's okay.
to the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's okay. John starts out singing Jacaranda, Help Me Out Tomorrow, or whatever it is. That's, I think Trevor Rabin has a solo album called Jacaranda. That's like a South African, I don't even remember right now what Jacaranda is. Is Anderson writing the lyrics, or is Rabin writing the lyrics for the most part?
Well, I think it was a mixture.
Okay.
You know, John was around, but he wasn't around all the time, and a lot of it was, and I couldn't sort of really dissect it, but a lot of it was Trevor.
Okay.
And of course, Jacaranda is the name of Trevor's studio.
Yeah. Oh, that's why he has an album called Jacaranda. Of course. Yes.
Yeah, one of his solo albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Did you guys ever perform I'm Running live?
Sure.
Oh, is there? Okay, so I'm wondering, are there any songs on this album that were never performed live again, or did everything make it into the set list at least for a little while there?
Yeah, we actually performed, I think, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, there is a recording of the show from, I think, Buenos Aires.
Oh wow. Okay.
No. Actually, it was a gig in Chile.
Okay.
And a radio station recorded it, and it is actually the only live recording of
okay.
of the album.
I'll see if I can find that.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
And it's actually quite a decent live recording.
Okay.
If you listen to it, you will pretty much
hear the
get
live
to,
I'm running.
Yeah,
okay.
The whole thing,
okay,
including Holy Lamb.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, that's the last song.
See the world we started, is it so low again? Like a light that's lost upon the stage. So the more it shines, it goes away. Surely then, see the curtain rising to show us once again all the magic of the earth and the sky. See, the more we find, the more we realize that every time, see, the laws of nature keep telling us like a friend. Spirit of emotion dancing to the wind. High above, so sure inspired again. I can tell a new story now. Can we see through this mask of a
Written just by John, which makes sense. I mean, it's the Johnniest John song ever. Anything Holy Lamb and harmonic, songs for harmonic convergence, all of the mysticism and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. He loves that kind of stuff.
It was John's, it was John's song, and it had to go on the album.
Yeah, had to. You say that like, okay, got it. I get what that means. It's a pretty little thing. It's super short. It's at the end. It's almost, like I was saying, after having, because I'm Running is the song I go back to, I sometimes just finish and don't always get to Holy Lamb. No offense to John. But I remember that harmonic convergence thing being a thing back in 87, where like everyone was going to get on the same, astral wavelength or something like that. I sound like I'm criticizing. I don't mean to, but it was something like that.
Well, some people anyway, do tend to criticize John for, his cosmic, output. But it's a pretty song.
It is.
It was a little tough to actually play live.
I could see that.
I think we may have actually played it to a sample because of the rhythm track.
Okay.
But it has, it's got a kind of a soon quality to it, and he does write really, pretty melodies like on songs like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty little track, and it's nice that it's there at the end, and it says a lot about John. That's who he is. His songs like this. Yep.
And it was always it was the last song of the show.
Oh, okay.
And we used to have the only lights were a mirror ball. So cool. You can imagine the vibe was there.
Yes, I could totally see that. Nice effect. Okay, I get it. Well, that's the album. I mean, there's only 8 tracks, but each one has a really interesting story. I did want to ask you about the cover. Obviously, with the previous one, 90125, you guys weren't doing Roger Dean anymore. You're doing kind of, whatever, the modern art version, 80s very theme. Right. What do you think about the cover? Are you okay with it?
I never had an input to it. I think I would have done something a little more sort of Big Generator like.
Okay.
I wasn't that fond of it, but I had no input in it. I don't think it was that great.
Okay. Well, I love it, and so I thought this would be a really fascinating album to kind of dig into, and it turns out it was. Thank you, Tony, for doing. When you think back on this period, we've already covered a lot of ups and downs. What's the dominant thought or feeling or reaction when you think about the Big Generator period of your life?
Well, it was a good time. It was a slightly complicated time in terms of relationships. Certainly, the band relationships other than the other. So it was a very interesting period, but we had just come off, the most amazing success. And I think everyone was really tired.
Yeah.
I think everyone realized that we couldn't really follow up on 90125 the way that people wanted. There was a slight discrepancy in the people in the band about the direction that it should go. Yeah. But it was a fun time. I have good memories about it.
And to keep the Yes boat afloat, like I said, if 90125 was the divorce baby, Big Generator is the divorce house, and it managed to keep the family together for a little bit longer, successfully.
It did, and of course it led up to what was the inevitable. And that was, the 8 of us getting together for the Union tour.
Yeah.
That was the outcome of that whole period. So, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for doing this with me, Tony. You're just the best, and I know I'm just grateful that you take my calls. That sounds really funny, but a member of guests that I admire so much will talk to me more than once. I feel like a very blessed man. So thank you for doing that with me. You
could phone me at any time. I'm very retired now, and this is always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It means a lot to me. I love you guys so much. To be able to pick your brain sometimes means a lot. Thank you, Tony.
All right, there you have it, Tony Kaye. Seriously, how lucky are we that we get to hear from people like Tony Kaye? I mean, he was on a year ago to talk about his own project and his own career, and then to come back and talk for an hour about this album, which isn't even like a high point in his life. But we are so lucky and so grateful for people like Tony. So grateful. And I really want to know what you guys think about Big Generator. Who's a fan? Who's not a fan? What kind of strong feelings, if any, do you have? I want to get into this with somebody. So people, please communicate with me what you think about when you think about Big Generator, good or bad. I love it, but I understand if not everyone does. Okay? Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks again, Tony, for chatting with me. We love you. We'll talk to you all soon.